Hey, and welcome to the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast. I am your girl, Suzanne, also known as Positively Suzanne. Now, remember, this podcast was created with us in mind. It is a reminder that not only are we worthy, but we deserve the best versions of ourselves. So grab a cup of tea or your beverage of choice and sit back and relax and join me on this journey. Hey guys, it's your girl Suzanne, and it is a brand new month, and I am excited about the topic this month. This month, we are talking about female friendship, the power of female friendship, and everything that goes along with it. And I'm so excited because I'm actually going to be having some phenomenal women on the podcast this month, just really giving their insights and their take on what it means to be a female friend, how they maintain female friendship, how they go about beginning a friendship. And I'm really, really stoked about it. Friendship is so important to me. And while I have many acquaintances, the friends that are near and dear to my heart, the ones that I would call true friends, are far and in far, far. And it's a small number. And it doesn't mean that I don't have people that I genuinely like and I hang out with and I get along well with. But I think to achieve a level that you call a friend or a bestie, that is something that I think we've taken it too casually on how we utilize that term. And I, for one, um, if somebody's my bestie, somebody's a true friend, there's just no limits to the friendship. And I believe that there's different levels of friendships in terms of, you can genuinely like somebody and hang out with them. And, it's not somebody that you share confidence with or things like that, but you like them and you wish them well. Personally, for me, I believe that, a true friend is somebody that it doesn't even matter what phase of life that you meet them, whether you met them when you were younger and you've you know, grown together, whether you just met them and, you became friends. I know that sometimes people think that friendships are better if they're longer, or friendships are better if they, they're fresh started, depending on the phase of your life that you meet them, And to me personally, I think it really depends on the person. It depends on who you are. My two best friends, I met them at work and I was adamant that I wouldn't, get friends at work because, you're there to work and it's very, very different. And I have worked with women who have been very catty and just never thought that I would find my two best friends at work. So that worked out for me. But for me, friendship is so important. I don't believe friends should be jealous of each other. Friends shouldn't compete with each other. They should celebrate each other. They should absolutely have boundaries. It doesn't mean that you're taking advantage. You should be able to be honest, be your full, true, authentic self. You should be able to share your dreams, your desires, your wins, your losses. You should be able to give advice and you should be able to take advice and you should be able to be corrected. Because that's the thing with friendship. Your friendship, like, could say, like, all right, girl, you're acting a fool. So one of my best friends, she was sometimes I'll be like saying something and like, I'm gonna do this. And she's like, yeah, okay. So if I say to you, I'm gonna wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and go jogging, she's like, yo, okay, that is not gonna happen. And because that's my girl and she knows that I'm not a morning person and I'm not a jogger. And, I'm okay with that. Some people were like, well, if you set your mind to, you could do it. Oh, I suppose. I mean, all things are possible through Christ, but me getting up at 5 a.m. to go running, I just don't see that happening. And my girl be like, yeah, okay, Suzanne, that's not going to happen. But, I love the friendships that I have, especially with those two. um, I'm just able to truly be myself. I'm not in competition. They're not in competition. We're able to celebrate each other, love on each other. We'll have moments where, we talk every day, talk several times a day. And then sometimes, we don't talk for a long time because we all get busy and caught up in our lives. And then when we pick up the phone, it's just like right where we left off. And, there's little inside jokes that, sometimes, nobody else gets it but you. And, that's truly remarkable. I think a lot of times when we think about friendship, we're thinking that the person has to be on the same level as you socially, economically, maritally, um, all that. So I have friends that are single. I have friends that are married. I have friends that are divorced. I have friends that are dating. I have friends with kids, and I have friends without kids. I will say my two best friends right now, when we met each other, none of us had kids. I was married when I met both of them. And, now we're all married with kids and all that, but that's not how it started. And even friends that have started out like that sometimes can end up losing their way, because I don't think people realize sometimes that you have to be intentional in your friendships, that, you can it unintentionally hurt someone, and being the bigger person that says, hey, like, I messed up, like I didn't mean to do that. It's not being afraid to apologize. It's showing grace to them and allowing them to grow. And one of the saddest things sometimes I think is when you outgrow people. And especially if you had a friendship and you think that, well, I really shouldn't let this go. And I don't think that you should throw friendships away, but people do outgrow people. And people do, I don't want to say, some people refuse to grow and they want to remain where they are. And that's okay. You have to let them be who they are. But if you have outgrown it, and, unfortunately, people say, like, well, you get rich and switch, which is a term that people use. They're like, well, they got rich and switch. No, 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 that's not it. Like sometimes somebody refuses to grow and you're growing, and it's okay. Just show grace and move on. And there's this meme that I see a lot, and it says, just because you lost me as a friend doesn't mean that you've gained me as an enemy. And I think that is so true, especially for me, because I've had friends and people that I connected with and, hung out with. And, you know, during those times, obviously, we have shared confidence and things like that. But when you grow apart and you guys are no longer hanging out or things like that, it's not something where, I'm going to talk about what we spoke about. It's just that was a part of my life. That was a phase of my life. And, I've moved forward. Not an enemy, not somebody that, I hold in low regard. It's just, it no longer serves me in terms of the relationship no longer feeds me for whatever reason. And people could outgrow me. I mean, certainly I've had friendships that have ended, not, like a serious best friend friendship. I mean, I think through high school, we all had best friends and things like that. It's hard for me, and I know people are listening to this and be like, what are you talking about? It's hard for me to make friends because I I'm friendly, I'm open, I'm an extrovert. I'm friendly with everyone and I'm open with everyone. And I think sometimes everybody assumes that everybody is my friend, and that's not true. And I think people are drawn to my personality. And when I say it's hard for me, because it's like a lot of people come towards me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have good intentions. And I'm able to, more often than not, discern if someone means me a harm. And, I'm still friendly, but I will put up boundaries and barriers to ensure that they don't get to the level where I would have to step out of character. So I'm very upfront in the beginning with people about who I am. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And that's why I said it's hard for me to make friends, because it's like when you're honest in the beginning, like people are put off by that. I remember when I started dating my husband, and I remember the first time he asked me out, I remember, like being very pointed and asking him, why, like, what do you expect to get out of this, And he was like, okay, then. So I think with friendship for me, sometimes I'm like that. I'm like, um, where is this going? And maybe not in those general terms. Maybe I don't come out and say it exactly like that. But I just think that people show you who they are pretty quickly. And there's been folks that have slipped under the radar that I thought would be a friend, and they turned out not to be, and that's okay. The good thing is I'm very good at compartmentalizing, and I'm able to work with people. I'm able to collaborate with people, and I'm able to do things with people without being friends with them. And that's okay. I think sometimes people believe that you have to be friends with somebody to work with them. No, I don't only work with my friends. I work with many people who, hey, they're not my friends. They're my acquaintances. They're people that I know. They're colleagues. They're peers. And, they're people that I associate with, people that I socialize with. This is a big world, and I'm a socializer. I I socialize. So I think that sometimes people think that you have to be friends. So do yourself a favor. You don't have to be friends with everyone that you associate with, that you connect with. But I do believe that we should treat people well. I do believe that we should live in love, and we should live in light, and we should live in kindness. And I believe that if you treat everybody that way, if you treat everyone with love, if you treat everyone with kindness, eventually when they show who they are, you are able to step back and know that, okay, well, I gave my best and I led in love, and they unfortunately are not open to receiving that. And you can step back with with a good conscience, I should say. Someone asked me recently, how do I support people who doesn't support me? And it's simple, because I don't do things expecting something in return. It's the same thing with friendships. When you're friends with somebody, you don't do things expecting something in return. If you go out and you see something like, oh my goodness, my friend would like this, and you pick it up and you give this to this friend and they appreciate it. The goal is not to expect something in return. And I think friends, sometimes if you think about everything that you do with a friend as transactional, then examine that friendship, because you might not truly be friends. And everybody always like Oprah and Gail, like, I'm your Oprah, I'm your Gail. But nobody truly knows the friendship. And I admire the friendship that Oprah and Gail has, but no one knows what they went through to get there. And yes, they have shared the stories, of how they became friends. And we know that publicly, but nobody truly knows what it takes to maintain a friendship of over, what is it, 30 something years now? So I don't compare my friendship to anyone else's. I am intentional. And if you're in my life and you're a friend of mine, I am intentional about keeping it. And if you are a friend of mine and I find that, or if I think you're a friend and you have not been a friend, I'm able to step back and treat you with kindness and treat you with love, but also understand that, we're not friends, and it's okay. We don't have to be friends with everybody. Female friendship is amazing. Like female friendship, it's it's one of those great things in life that you are blessed with. And honestly, I wish that on every female, that they are able to truly experience friendship, like true friendship. No pettiness, no jealousy, no backbiting, no envy. Just somebody that is as happy for you as you are for them. Someone that's cheering for you, someone that is celebrating you, someone that is loving you, someone that will check you when you're acting crazy, when you're, flipping out. Like there were times I could call my girl, and I remember when she moved back to Brazil, and I'll call, I was like, okay, and then she's like, okay, Suzanne, well, and I'm like, all right, all right, all right. Because sometimes, when you're in the middle of the storm, you can't see anything else but the storm. So then you give this, you're telling the story, and then they're able to look because they know you, and then you're explaining what happens. They're able to reel you in and says, okay, get off the ledge and let's talk about what really happened. And I love that. I value that. And so I want that for you guys. There's been a couple friendships that, I've admired over the years. Like that's why I watch a lot of these shows that deals with female friendship. And even when there is a break or a rift in the friendship, they are able to fix it. I love, oh my goodness, living single, that like the friendship, that it was crazy. And the funny thing is, so they were all connected to Khadijah, right? So, and if you don't know living single, I can't help you. So Khadijah was friends with Max. Khadijah was cousins with Sinclair, and Khadijah was friends with Regine. And even though Regine and Max weren't really friends, like all four of them were friends. So it's just like, I love that. Then you have Sex in the City. Then you have Girlfriends. I mean, and yeah, there were some things in there that, like it wasn't perfect, um, because we're human, right? And we're all prone to make mistakes. But when I watch these shows or these movies that deal with Girls Trip was another one that deals with female friendship, I love the fact that even when something happens and they're mad at each other and they cuss each other out, and yeah, I don't do that though. And but they're still able to be friends. They're still taking care of each other because at the end of the day, they love each other. So if you have a friend, and I'm going to encourage you with this, if you have a friend and you are feeling as if the relationship isn't where it should be, fix it. Life is too short to hold grudges. My friends, I love them. And if I felt that there was something that needed to be fixed, I would fix it immediately because I want them in my life. I want to share my joys, my triumphs, my losses with them, and I want to hear about theirs. So I'm going to fix whatever it is that's keeping us from fully enjoying our friendship. So if you have a rift with a friend, a true friend, fix it and figure out who your friends are, who your casual acquaintance are, and that's okay. You don't have to be friends with everyone, but you still got to be a good person. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You still got to be a good person. You still got to live in love. You still got to live in life, live in light, and you still have to be kind. But everybody doesn't need to be your friend. So as this month goes through, and I'm talking to different women about, the value of female friendship and how they form friendship, and you know, I'm fascinated by it, and I can't wait to hear. There are two people on this month's episode. I'm not going to give out their names because they're going to be on it, that they're friends. And, I love their friendship. Like, I love how they ride for each other. And, I admire friendship. And there's actually several people that I know locally that they're friends, and I've seen their interaction, and I see how they speak about each other when the other one isn't there. Just really good things, loving things, and I admire that to no end, and I love seeing that. And I've been obsessed with that for a while, and because just because of the value that I place on friendship and what my friends mean to me. So when I see other women truly living out friendship, I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. That's amazing. So, what I want you to do for me for this month is really take an assessment of the friendships in your life, the female friendships in your life, and figure out if you guys are truly friends. And if you're not at the level that you want to be, and make sure that the other person wants to be there also, and fix it. Fix it. Get rid of any toxic friendship in your life. Anybody that's competing, anybody that's envious, anybody that's jealous, anybody that's giving you backhanded compliments, anybody that's talking about you. anybody that is making you feel bad about yourself, anybody that doesn't celebrate the glorious human being that you are, they're not your friend. If you call them a friend, those are the things that should be happening. And you should be doing the same thing for them. So, really take an assessment of the people in your lives that you call friends and do what you got to do. Either you build it better or you remove it. Life is way too short for us to go around having toxic relationships, toxic friendships, especially female friendship. Female friendships are one of the greatest gifts that we can have. So I wish that for you. I wish that for every woman, even if it's just one, to have a true friend. And until that next time, this is Suzanne. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast, which is available in all major podcasts and directories, including Amazon, Apple, Google, Pandora, Spotify, and a plethora of other spaces, including my very own website at www.positivelysuzanne.com. So choose your app and subscribe, listen, like, share, write a review. Do what you got to do, but make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend that this podcast is where it's at. You can also support the podcast by donating to the show at buymeacoffee.com/positively Susie. And until next time, this is Suzanne saying, you, my dear, are worth it.